పొలం గట్టు దుమ్ములోన పోట్ల గిట్ట దూకినట్టు పొలేరమ్మ జాతరలో పోతరాజు ఊగినట్టు కిర్రు సెప్పులేసుకొని కర్ర సాము చేసినట్టు మర్రి సొట్టు నీడలోన కుర్ర గుంపు కూడినట్టు ఎర్ర జొన్న రొట్టెలోన మిరప తొక్కు కలిపినట్టు నా పాట చూడు నా పాట చూడు నా పాట చూడు నాటు 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 వీర నాటు 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 కూర నాటు 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 పచ్చి మిరపలాగా పిచ్చ నాటు 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 పిచ్చు కత్తిలాగా వెర్రి నాటు.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to MovieChatz, a film podcast where we dive into movies that we chose to discuss on a semi-monthly basis. My name is Alan, and I'm joined by the man himself, the man who rescued me from prison using the sound of our romantic song that we made together, which you just heard. It's Magellan.
Oh, Alan, where are you? Are you in this prison?
Meanwhile, the background song is like, will these two men ever love each other again? You're like,
this is a part of the movie where it could be bad, but maybe good too.
I think this film has the most self-aware soundtrack of all time. The most like fourth wall breaking soundtrack. It might as well be like, this guy's wearing blue.
And that symbolizes water.
Oh, the boys. We're here to talk about the boys today. Not the show Boys. No. But a different group of boys.
Podcast, I'll tell you what.
Beam and Raju save the day in RRR, our film of the evening. And we're here to discuss it on MovieChatz. Magellan, how are you? What's going on in your life?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Now, you know, before folks mistake it, if you're seeing me on the video, don't think that I'm wearing suspenders to do the Nachu Nachu dance. I wish. Okay, I wish. This is but a sling for my slowly recovering arm. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good, I would say.
Good.
Yeah. Coming off, I had like a month of travel, and then last weekend was the first weekend in a while that I didn't have to do anything or go anywhere. And I was like, oh my God, weekends are so long. This is amazing.
Wow.
When you don't have one in a while, you're like, I get 2 whole days. Whoa.
To do anything?
Yeah.
I think that is one of the perks of one of the good things about travel is it reminds you what a weekend at home can accomplish, what you can enjoy to do. That's really wonderful.
What about you? How are you doing?
This guy deserves a 4-day work week. At least.
All right. Sorry.
Okay, we'll take that.
Schedule.
No, but we do deserve a 4-day work week generally in the country.
No, you're right.
As a treat.
Yeah.
I took your lead and I had surgery this most recently.
Hey, congrats.
Thank you. As people can tell, I look and sound fine. I had just a minor heart surgery. Heart surgery. I love doing that with 2 people. I go, I had surgery. They go, whoa. And then I go, I actually had heart surgery. And then I go, whoa.
Come on now.
So annoying.
It's misleading.
I know. I love bearing the lead.
Surgery for your heart, which is serious, which is
correct.
Is a thing, but not surgery on your heart.
Correct. And not open heart or anything. They just fixed they fixed a extra electrical pathway that I had in my heart using something called an ablation. I won't get into it more than that, but it was a really interesting procedure, and I am 100% on the mend other than still have a slightly sore throat like 4 days later, presumably from intubation. But if that persists, I think after a week, then I'm going to be like, hey, give me the good stuff. Like, not even sore, just like literally, is there something tickling me here? You know, that's no fun. Otherwise, I was at my parents for like the past 4 nights. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Okay, 3 nights.
3 nights at my parents. Good.
Last night
that was just for me.
Go ahead. Last night was my first night back here at the apartment, and you do regress. Usually I do 1 night there, and I go, wow, it's been a while. But 3 nights, 2 of them I worked remotely, like in my parents' kitchen. I was like, whoa, I live here again. My parents are great. I just don't live there anymore. It's a different part of my life.
Right.
So, but I'm back. I'm recovered, and everything's good now. So,
great.
I'm excited, Magellan. We have something really fun tonight. I got to pick our main feed special today. As people know, we're on a a cycle where we do a bunch of our main show discussion, then we do Star Trek, then we do main feed, then we do Star Trek.
Mhm.
And it's time for a main feed special. And I chose for us to come back to Movie Chats after our last scene at Chats featured Zena and Gabrielle going to the nation of India and dealing with what we considered to be some sort of problematic storytelling tropes. We wanted to see what the world of Tollywood had for us and what those same, almost remarkably similar types of storytelling would look like from an Indian director. And like I was saying, I was laid up for so long that I was like, give me just a really long fucking film. I've been wanting to watch RRR for literally 3 years now. Let's just finally watch it. So we did. We watched 2022's RRR, which was directed by S.S. Rajamouli, who also had main story writing credits. I'm assuming you know more about this, John, based on your research.
He wrote the screenplay, and there were some other folks involved in writing dialogue. I watched. So I've known about RRR similarly since 2000. I almost said 2002.
Whoa.
2022. When it came out, Patrick H. Willems, who I enjoy on YouTube, film YouTuber, had a video about it, which I didn't watch, but I saw him on Twitter being like, "Oh my god, RRR," or like everywhere. He's like, "RRR is my favorite thing." So I also watched his video essay, which was co-written by a friend of his, Siddhant Adlakha. I'll spell that because I'm sure I didn't pronounce it right. Siddhantadlakha, who's a film critic, filmmaker from Mumbai, I believe was what his bio said on his website. And in their video, I learned that so S.S. Rajamouli wrote the screenplay, but he co-created the story with Vijayendra Prasad, who is like a kind of a storied screenwriter in Tollywood and is also his dad. So it's pretty fun.
I did not realize that part of it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so Rajamouli co-devised the story with his dad, which makes a lot of sense.
This movie does feel like the sort of handshake of a young, fresh-faced, excited director who worked with his dad to be like, what would be historically sick as hell?
Yeah, Dad, who are your favorite historical figures who you wish could hang out? Let's do that movie.
Yeah. That's very useful to know, and I'm sure we'll be getting into that perspective a lot in our discussion. The film was originally released in Telugu. That's why we're saying Tollywood, not Bollywood. Different language in India. The most commonly available version of this film is the Hindi dub, which is what we both watched. There is a India-based streaming service that has the Telugu dub of RRR that we both tried to find, but their website is hard to navigate, and the trials, you have to pay money. You have to get a month of it, basically.
Yeah, you can't do a trial. There's like a way to do a trial if you it's like you have this cable company in India or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't have that. So we both watched the Hindi dub. Yeah, which was not my first choice, but it ended up being, it's fine and fun.
Yeah, and also the main actors dubbed their own lines. So Ram Charan, who plays Raju, dubs himself, and then N.T. Rama Rao Jr. as Komaram Beam dubs himself as well. The rest of the movie has varied qualities of dub, which honestly did add to the charm for me. Especially you noted that even the prominent English-speaking actors now dub themselves.
Yeah, all the people speaking English who spoke English in the original got dubbed over speaking English, which I guess I guess that makes more sense just with sound consistency or something.
Right.
You don't want the environmental noise, but it's
on one person's line, but not the other person's line.
Yeah. So,
do you want me to give a brief summary of RRR?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is during the British Raj in 1920, and the evil Governor Scott, played by the late and great Ray Stevenson, and his wife Catherine visit a forest in Adilabad, India. They abduct a young girl named Molly, who is singing and painting henna, which we'll talk about. They take her from her tribe. The tribe's guardian, Komaram Beam, who is based on a historical real person, embarks for Delhi to rescue her, and he disguises himself. And meanwhile, we're also following the British army, who are trying to find Beam and stop him from rescuing Molly, and basically shut down this rescue effort. So they send out their best cop, their number one boy, who's, let me get his name exactly right. Hold on, check this shit out. Alluri Sitaramaraju, who I ended up calling Raju for most of my notes. And he is like a super badass Indian cop. He's, you know, surrounded by white people, but he's the like Indian guy who is working for the crown. And he also disguised himself. They both lie to each other, but they become friends because they don't know who each other are. And then they find out who each other are. And we learn that even Raju is the son of a revolutionary. When he was younger, he learned to become a crack shot and also learned to hate the British government. And his backstory after the intermission reveals that also he joined the police with the intent to like arm the people of India as part of a revolutionary effort. And he's kind of strayed from that path. So Beam brings him back. They rescue Molly in a series of increasingly spectacular action sequences, and they all become best friends, and one of them marries with the white girl. Oops. Named Jenny. That's basically the movie, and then we get a classic dance number at the end. But along the way is generally some of the most fantastic, beautiful action sequences I have ever seen. What did you think of RRR, John?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about the text and the context of this film, but my big takeaway is that this film fucking slaps my ass repeatedly in a majorly good way over and over and over again. One of the comments on the Patrick H. Willems video, someone said that watching RRR feels like having a movie inserted directly into your veins, and that feels pretty much accurate. It's got sort of every, like, this movie is saying to the audience, hey, you came to see a film for 3 hours. This is what you're doing today, and we're going to make it a complete experience. There's going to be action, there's going to be romance, there's going to be song and dance, there's going to be a little history, there's going to be some betrayal and redemption and more action and a tiger flying at the screen. Everything you could want to see at the cinema, here it is in RRR, masterfully done. It is amazing.
Amazing is a word I would use to describe it. I agree, though, that the we should probably come out and say this pretty early. Some of the subtext of this movie is weird, and like some of the historical context, weird is not even the word I would use. I guess more complicated, right? Because we know that both of these characters are based on real people who never met each other in real life. So it's kind of
right.
I kept trying to come up in my notes with an American equivalent. Like every 20 minutes, I'd just be like, is this like if John Brown and Malcolm X? And it's like, no, like who's more specifically like two people who fought and who were like violent revolutionaries. And like that's like close, but it just, and the timing has to work out too.
What I landed on was John Brown and Harriet Tubman, but they might have actually met each other. I'm not
might
sure.
have been pals. And this is going to be the most relevant when we get to the third act. The movie is also playing with some references to Hinduism pretty explicitly, which is another big reason. I actually didn't know that this movie would do such explicit references like that in the third act. And then I watched that and I was like, wow, this is perfect after the scene episodes. This is like as interesting of a compare contrast as we could have asked for, basically. So I'm kind of glad the pick landed on that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the two main characters, I saw somewhere the director saying that the inspiration for him for the tone and approach of this movie was Inglourious Bastards, and the part of Inglourious Bastards where they shoot Hitler, and it's like, oh, okay, you can just do that in a movie.
Did you watch the clip where he says that, where he like talks about
no
this?
I read it somewhere.
There, you can find the clip online, and it's him basically being like, yes, they're like, what's your inspiration? He's like, I really loved Inglourious Bastards, and it's like, you can just shoot Hitler. They did that, and I go, whoa, you can just do that. That's like allowed in movies.
Uh-huh.
And then I thought I could do
Um,
something like that.
that's funny. So this movie takes that sort of license, and I don't know the real history of these two figures well enough to know what's right or wrong about it per se. I know for sure that Komaram Beam was not strong enough to swing a motorcycle around his head.
Yeah.
For sure, that does not feel accurate. But there's a lot of like interesting political stuff, and to be clear, this movie is like a huge blockbuster smash, like crowd pleaser. I think second highest grossing Indian film of all time or something like that. So uh on some level we're just making like a super cool explodey awesome movie. And it feels like there's a bit of political stuff going on here because both of these figures are from a similar region of India, what was once a single state and is now two separate states as of 2014. I was doing some reading about this. Um, the region, the state of Telangana, where Hyperabad, Hyperabad is, which is where Tollywood movies are made.
Mm-hmm.
That region split in 2014 from a region called Andhra Pradesh, and that was like a really long period of resistance and desire from the people in Telangana to have their own state and have a state where um Telugu, right, is the
Yeah.
original, or yeah, where Telugu is like the primary language and all that sort of stuff. And Beam is from an area that is now in modern day Telangana, and Raju is from an area that is now in modern day Andhra Pradesh. So there's also that
Oh.
sort of desire from the director to be like, let me kind of reunite this state that has been divided into two different states. And then there's also like a broader pan Indian thing, especially as we get to the end. And like you were saying, incorporate the mythological connections. And in the Patrick H. Willems video, there was some talk about people having issues with how Raju's character is portrayed towards the end of the movie, feeling like almost like a hyper nationalistic, like there's like a far right national
There it is. Yeah.
thing in India that's kind of like anti-Muslim
Yeah.
and very pro caste system. Um, and so that's not actually what the movie's doing. The movie's dressing Raju to look like the actual historical figure that he is and how that guy dressed in battle. But there were some critiques within India along those lines. So there's like several layers that is the extent of what I understand about them and how they're
Yeah.
operating here. But I felt like it was important to talk about them and reflect about them at the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we love movies and stories about revolutionaries. I think like right now, especially we're reaching another groundswell of stories about revolution and the value and importance of a needed like a national revolution.
Mhm.
And a lot of people who use revolutionary imagery are using it for like nefarious purposes or
Mhm.
violent purposes or terrorist purposes. It kind of depends on what side of the conflict you're on, and that's a very complicated global political issue. But
Mhm.
yeah, the stuff with Raju, I think, has been like wielded by some far right nationalists. Um,
Mhm.
and speaking of wearing a culture, he's dressed as Raju, who happens to also be dressed as Rama, the god. And the movie at the very end, in the very like final fight scene, he kind of like embodies some of the spirit of.
I don't think he's actually supposed to be dressed as Rama,
No,
but the song is like,
that's what I'm saying.
"Hey, it's
The
Rama." Yeah.
song, the song says Rama and Bija, and I was like, what? Or
Yeah,
Bima,
yeah, yeah.
and I was like, you're not doing that, but it's there. And that's the thing that makes this interesting comparing
Yeah.
it to Xena is like, well, Xena's like was more confident in just being like, yep, we're doing it. We're nakedly just
Mhm.
we're dressing her up as Kali, and that's happening. And here's the other characters. And this movie
Mhm.
is like, you can interpret cinema however you want. You can assign meaning to it however you want, but we're doing the makeup, we're doing the outfit, and what's important is that we're basing these on people who were real, which comes with its own, especially if you're from India and you know your history, like its own cultural baggage, you know. Some people, if we the only thing we can do is use our metaphors, right? It's one of our best tools, rather. If I go on and check out a movie about John Brown and Harriet Tubman beating up slave owners, then I'm like, well, John Brown must have been really cool, not learning that also John Brown like had some fucked up stuff that he did, right? Like you flatten history by making these people into superheroes, kind of, is my point. Which I think is interesting, and it just says a lot about like what the director's goals are. I think that's always worth keeping in mind, right? But there's so much else. Yeah.
Just my thought on that, and then we can talk about the movie proper. I think it was interesting and kind of difficult to find historical parallels from an American perspective, because our history is just so different and so differently taught than what's on display here. Like, we don't really have revolutionary folk heroes in the United States in the same way, because a lot of our the founding fathers from the American Revolution are these sort of like aristocrats, and slave owners. And nobody wants to watch a movie where like George Washington carries John Adams on his back while John Adams like shoots pistols at the British or whatever. It's just not. I mean,
Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
Well, I was gonna say Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is like the closest movie that we have to this in the historical sense. But they had to make up a bunch of vampires for him to fight.
Sure, that to give him a fake metaphor villain to fight.
Yeah, even though they also were plantation owners, so I guess they were
correct
villains. But yeah, we don't really have that. We don't have this like thousands-year-old mythology, and also this interconnected, rich history of all of these different languages and local cultures in different states and regions of India that then had sort of a unification period. That's not something we have. And the the wrinkles of this movie being in one of the like historic languages of India. I was reading about this, and there's like 11 languages that the Indian government recognizes as I forget the exact phrasing. It was like historic, like basically they have like historic significance. They're over 1,000 years old. They have like a rich historical tradition. And Telugu is one of them. So there's some parallels, and then there's just an extent to which like the closest parallel we really have to like, fuck yeah, it's our favorite heroes fighting the bad guys, the heroes we all know and love, is like Marvel characters, I guess. And we've found how kind of hollow that feels after a while, I think, because there isn't like a song and dance number that Iron Man and Captain America can do at the end of the movie about how like what this all meant and how great it is,
Yeah. That's a good point.
So that was on my mind throughout watching this, I would say.
And thankfully, this movie does give us a nice, easy villain to all hate, and that's the British. I think it's very comfortable and very confident in being like, everything the British government did in India was evil and unconscionable and based in just pure base evil, which is a really fascinating and like kind of refreshing perspective. I feel like, again, speaking of comparing to American movies, when we do this, we punch down and we're like, oh, it's easy. Like Muslims, evil. I've experienced this in cinema. And Arabs, evil, done. Nazis, and then you're like, wait, no, why not? Come on, you can say it. Just say Nazis evil. And they're like, Nazis and then I get really mad about the like state of the world we're in. So yeah, I do, and I think the British are so entertaining in this, like how absurdly villainous they are, mustache twirling. Ray Stevenson is chomping on scenery, and they don't really get a chance to be at any point either likable or powerful, other than what they have systematically. Like Ray
Mhm.
Stevenson, I expected in his final scene when they kill him to like rip his shirt off and go like Metal Gear Rising mode, and he wants to like fight them. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
he's even this big ass British guy who's like the main villain of the movie dies in one hit because he sucks. Because
Right.
he's shit with an arrow to the heart.
Yeah.
How did you feel with the portrayal of the British in this?
Yeah, I think what I found the most interesting about it is like in an American action movie, like nowadays we have, if we do a movie on this scale, it's going to kind of wink at the audience or be self-conscious. It's not going to be nearly as balls to the wall, like we're fucking fighting and we're singing and we're doing it and kind of celebrating that. So really the last time that our cinema did this sort of thing was in, I don't know, the 80s, the 90s. And it feels like in a lot of kind of the great American action movies, the villain always has a plan that
Yeah,
they're trying to accomplish. And the job of the heroes is to stop them
right.
from making the world bad. The world is good. The status quo is cool. The villain is about to ruin it. So we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. And that's how, superhero movies work too, is there's a supervillain, they have a plan. Da 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 da. The British, the governor here is like, he doesn't have a plan. He is the status quo.
Yeah,
The situation is set up to his benefit, to his wife's benefit, to the benefit of all these uh, white people who have their little parties and that kind of thing. So there is no thought on their part as to what it is that they want, because they just want to hold power and keep it and keep
maintain.
doing stuff. And so that puts our heroes in the position instead of, well, we're going to topple this power structure. So it's not really about Governor Scott being like especially intelligent or especially ambitious.
Mm,
It's more just like he is especially well resourced. He has a whole army of dudes and a big ass fortress. And once you can get to him, you can shoot him in the heart because he bleeds just like anybody else. Um, and so we don't really spend much time at all with the British trying to understand them, which I think is a good thing,
yeah,
because then we spend most of our time with our two protagonists, and most of the fighting, um, up until like the back third of the movie, is like most of the people who are getting injured in fights are Indian people. And
correct.
I think that's a really interesting thing to track over the course of the film, is like who is hurting whom and how, and what does that say about the dynamics of colonial power. Because the one thing thematically that Governor Scott um, brings into the film is very early on. Uh, Molly's mother realizes, oh my God, they're abducting my daughter. She tries to chase after the car. Um, One of the British guards stops her and is going to shoot her. And then Scott gives this whole speech about, oh, do you know the value of that bullet? It was made in a British factory, British ships. By the time it's reached you, it's worth £1 sterling. So find a different way to kill her. And so he brings into this film the whole theme of like the way that imperialism is tied up with capital, and those kind of assessments of like value being, like financial value being the only thing that really matters to him or to the imperial project. um, and also this sort of question of like, you know, what does the way that you hurt someone say about what you think of them, and like the way that you value them.
Right.
uh, so I think that the British characters are in some ways unremarkable because they're just bad guys. But the way that the British characters think about India and Indians
Yeah.
says makes is like present throughout the movie and informs a lot of the conflict that we see throughout.
That's a really good point you made, that the majority of the violence is happening to Indian people. I think one of the other
Mhm.
benefits of this movie being absurdly high budget is they really, really get a lot of use out of extras to
Mhm.
become a force of power. Like, this is what I want to see a huge group of extras for, you know? That first scene where we're introduced to Raju and his
Oh
power
my
as he
god.
leaps over the fence and like tries to find one guy to bring in. Incredible. And that's like, there's obviously CG in the movie. They even mentioned like any animal used in this movie is CG. There are no real animals, which
Mhm.
looks great, honestly. Like, looks pretty good. But in that scene, there are clearly just a ton of extras, and it's Indians fighting Indians. Like,
Mhm.
there's almost something of like, you're supposed to feel weird that the person wielding power is being like controlled and manipulated by the British, even though he thinks he is doing the controlling, and the
Mhm.
people trying to hurt him just like want to protect their comrade. And
Mhm.
that's the first moment of like large scale violence that we see. But yeah, I think if you analyze, like, if you really wanted to English class this movie, every action movie, it's like, or every action scene in it is like, who's the subject, who's the dealing the violence and receiving it, and
Yeah.
you can always trace that back to the original basic themes of a film, which are like, we're pro nature, we're pro the environment, and we're anti colonialism to the very end, to
Mhm.
the last drop of blood that falls into my
Mhm.
eye and then blink turns into a tear.
Oh my
Um,
god. Yeah, that scene is inspiring from a filmmaking perspective. That is
mhm.
the best one person fighting a crowd of people action scenes. It's the best one I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life. And it tells you a whole hell of a lot about the way that violence is operating, and kind of what I was saying before about like the British and the sort of mundanity of their evil, because the British officer is just like, I want that guy. Doesn't really think about how that would happen. He just wants to be able to say a command and then get the result of it. And then it's amazing to watch the action unfold, and then to cut back to the British soldiers and see them being like, "Oh my god, this guy?"
we have a
They
weapon.
can't they can't even imagine having ordered him to do those specific things. And so I think it says something about like, yes, power operates in this way where it's exploitive, and also it takes people cooperating with power systems to uphold them, and
Correct.
sometimes that cooperation um, is like
Like, against your own interest.
against your own interest, but also kind of like that cooperation goes beyond what power could have imagined it could
I
do in the
see.
first place. They didn't know that he was like superhuman, super soldier. He's trying to use that, we learn later in the movie, to position himself so that he can disperse guns and that kind of thing. Um, but it makes you wonder, like, was he right to inflict all of the violence that he inflicts in this scene?
Yeah.
How much of that anger was just anger that was directed towards the British, but he couldn't attack them at that time? Could he have just, like, he probably could have taken on the whole British army by himself with those powers, and why hasn't he up to this point? I think it makes you ask a lot of questions about Raju, his motives, his means. Do the ends justify the means kind of questions? And did he kind of give up more than he needed to in
Yeah.
the process of like cooperating with power to undermine it?
I'd almost argue that Raju is sort of the soft protagonist of the film, because Beam is like an
Mm-hmm.
important character, but he's always played as like fairly above the board. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he crushes on Jenny very simply. His English is very rudimentary. His goals are explicitly violent and revolutionary, but like,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't, we don't get his like long complicated backstory. He's kind of like basically fully fleshed out by the time we see him befriending a tiger at the top of the film,
Mm-hmm.
um which is fantastic. But like, yeah, it feels like Raju is the one who has the hero's journey. You know, you
I
leave and you
think
come
so.
back.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a cool decision though, as they getting into the all of this discussion, and now we're getting to the main title credits of the film.
Yeah, we
Another,
haven't hit the title card yet.
it is a delayed title card, which is exciting. I love that.
Yeah,
But
it's amazing.
they collaboratively rescue a young boy from the fires of an exploding train that falls off of a bridge. And that involves them doing this complicated rope swinging technique that also involves Beam wrapping himself in the flag of India, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like I think Raju's like holding it, and it kind of brushes against the surface of the water as they swing. It's a pretty cool moment.
And he wraps himself in it to protect himself from flames as they land and save the boy. And grasp hands, which is where the movie does this very fun like act break thing. They like lock in, they freeze frame a shot and then turn it into sort of a title card. It's RRR Rise, Roar, Revolt, which is one of the the meanings of the title of the film.
Yeah, the flag says on it, by the way.
Yeah, I think you had this.
It's the name of the Vande Mataram, which was a poem that was then turned into the national song of India. So it's like this super nationalistic moment, which is and I think that's part of the point. Is it's like these guys are uniting together to save the next generation. So it's like the literal meet cute moment, but it's also kind of this symbolic, like here's where they're gonna end up, and then we're gonna split them up, and there's gonna be tension, but we're gonna fix it by the end. Do you know the reason the movie is called RRR?
I've watched enough of that video to know I've seen it, but I don't remember.
So RRR stands for different things depending on the language that you're watching it in. I think, as you just said, the English version, Rise, Roar, Revolt, they all kind of mean something like that. But originally, it was called RRR as a working title because the R's stood for N.T. Ramarao Jr., Ram Charan, and
Rajamouli.
Rajamouli. The three R's of the two main actors and the director.
That's awesome.
Because it's like in the Patrick H. Williams video, something that he was making the point about is Tollywood is kind of in the zone that like Hollywood was during the studio system in the 50s, where the draw to come to the movies was the movie stars.
Yeah.
And so when you see a particular movie star on screen, it's like, oh my God.
I don't care what the movie is. I'm here to see
fucking Cary Grant or whoever.
SRK. Yeah.
And so these guys, the two main actors here are huge stars in Tollywood. And it's also like a huge deal that they're in this movie together because they've never worked together before.
Oh man.
So not only are these two historical figures, it's like these guys never met, but what if they did? And at the same time, it's like
these guys never worked together, but what if they did?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's pretty metal. Yeah. But anyway, so they clasp hands, and here we are. The movie has begun. It's RRR. And it starts with a wonderfully charming, like skip to my Lou, very long montage where the movie's like, these guys are now best friends. They just did the coolest thing ever, and they are best buds. Maybe that's going to go badly. Let's sing about that a little bit. There's this amazing shot. It cuts from them like doing paper mache together or something. They don't actually do that, but they're like, working out, and they're going on little day trips and stuff. There's this amazing shot where there's like a wheel that kind of bounces and then gets set on fire. And then the camera's like tracking along and looking at Raju through the opening of the burning tire.
Such an unnecessary flex shot.
I know. And it's like 5 seconds long, tops.
Probably took hours to set up, 100 takes. So much money.
Yeah.
They're like, do it. I don't care. The wheel
but,
of revolution.
This sequence is amazing. What did you think of the phase of the movie where they were like best buds?
I was a little unmoored for a bit because I was like, whoa, now we're suddenly friends. And this is what I wanted. Like the movie just basically
Yes.
speed runs you to exactly what it wants, which is these are the best buds ever, and doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily spend a lot of time explaining why. But like, I don't know, yeah, you can handwave all of it. They rescued a young boy together. They had a big heroic
Mhm.
moment. There tends to be heightened emotions there. And
Mhm.
this is the ground state of the film that I like the most, is when they are getting along and they're really cute for like an hour. This is how they managed to make it a 3 hour
Mhm.
runtime though, is we have to set up the stakes of this hour will be the friendship power hour, and then
Mhm.
there will be the act break, which is the defining break in their friendship.
Mhm.
I thought this was all super fun though. Yeah, lighthearted.
Yeah, and we're riffing off the dramatic irony of um Beam is like living under an assumed identity right now as he's trying to figure out, how do I find Molly? Where is she? And so he introduces himself. I forget what his fake name was, but he
Oh yeah.
introduces himself under a fake name to Raju. And then Raju's a police officer who has been promised a big promotion if he can find whoever it is that's hunting to kill the governor. Oh my gosh, they're actually the worst of enemies, but they don't know that their best friend is their worst enemy. So that's a pretty fun dynamic. Um, I was trying to think of a movie that's like that, and I couldn't think of one where it's like the two characters are best friends but worst enemies.
Oh, I mean that's just enemies to lovers in a way, right?
Yeah, but where it's like we're best friends, and then by night it's like, oh my god, you're actually so and
Oh,
so.
the
I
thing
didn't know you were
is,
so and so.
I mean, the thing is, this is they usually do this in romantic contexts. This is your Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of.
This is totally You've Got Mail, is what this is.
Yeah, right. She's the big corporation.
Yeah.
She's the indie bookstore. Yes, that's
So
why
right.
it's so
You're so
easy
right.
as a Westerner to be like, well, this is like kind of gay, right? Like this is like one of the most
Uh-huh.
popular ships in East Asia, honestly, from
Mhm.
since this movie came out. Um, I do try to remind myself, like from the brief time that I spent in Syria and from who my friends who are East Asian, like the culture is so different around male friendships that
Right.
what we interpret as like, and they were roommates, is
Mhm.
usually not always because I don't want to discount like queer East Asian folks, obviously, but is usually just like, especially amongst men, is like a deep camaraderie and friendship that at no point actually feels romantic, explicitly romantic in nature the way we think about that
Mhm.
term. But
Yeah.
I mean, these boys are the best of friends. You see that handshake?
Mhm.
Oof.
Mhm.
Later, doesn't someone say like your this friendship's like the greatest thing in my life or whatever? I have your friendship, which is more precious than my life.
Yeah, and they met like 3 days ago or something. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's awesome. It is very rom-com, yeah, that all of a sudden you're the most important person in the world to me, and we, like, just met and had this meet cute.
And right after this meet cute, we get into the highlight of the film, the song, the dance number that won it a Oscar,
Mhm,
um, Natu, which is
mhm,
a beautiful sequence in context and out of context. I had seen this clip 1,000 times, in 2022. Oh my god, there's a cool
mhm.
dance. And what's funny is when you watch the clip out of context, you're like, haha, funny Indian movie where they dance and the song is really catchy. I wonder what the movie's about.
Right,
That
right.
was always how I interpreted it. It's like, I can't do that with my feet. Wow, that's exciting. Look at those boys. And then in context, it's this really wonderful, like, it's sort of like a dance movie, like a Step Up or something, or Footloose, where like the
Mhm,
power of dance communicates our story and our feelings. It's a very
mhm,
Bollywood thing, honestly. Uh, where this British guy at Jenny's party is like, I know all of the dances.
mhm,
You want to see the Charleston, you want to see the step, you want to see jazz, I can do all of them. And they're like, well, can you do this? And they show him this beautiful, awesome, joyous dance that
mhm,
incorporates importantly, like the one of the only I think only black people in the movie, who's a
mhm.
drummer, and he's getting into it, and then the women are getting into it, and the guy tries to do it and he fails. This is just Magellan Fluke voice, a good time at the movies. Not is awesome. I was so happy to watch this finally and like
Mhm,
understand what it means in the whole spectrum of the film.
mhm. Um, I've been watching a lot of Smosh videos recently, which I was a thing for me in the pandemic, and now is like a
Yeah, listener, line that up with
perennial
the
thing.
last time 5 years ago that Magellan said, I've been watching a lot of Smosh videos recently.
And two of the newer cast members, there was like a short where they from a longer video where they did like a cool dance with suspenders, and I'm like, whoa, that was a very impressive dance. And then someone else was like, they did the RRR thing.
Yeah.
Like they had prepared and practiced to do this dance. And I watched that a couple days ago. I was like, oh shit, okay. That's what RRR is? All right, sounds good. But yeah, in context, this film does a lot of singing and dancing compared to like an American blockbuster, but it doesn't
Whereas,
do a lot of singing and dancing. It picks very specific moments for those sorts of things to happen. So this is intentionally kind of a turning point in the film where it's like, okay, we're bonding over our shared roots. Raju and Bhima and Beam both know this dance, uh, and they're really good at it. They're good at dancing together. They can dance longer than everybody else. And then, oh, they kind of see a glint in each other's eyes, and they're like, "What if I try to dance longer than you? What if we have a little rivalry?" So I love the way that it takes us from kind of like the fun, oh, I have a crush on a white lady named Jenny part of the movie, which is cute, into the uh-oh, now we're going to start fighting part of the movie. And this is also essentially a fight scene in some
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
especially when they get towards the end and like people are dropping one by one. It
Yeah.
reminded me of after Raju like beat up everybody outside the gates, and then you see everybody's kind of knocked over or running away. Very similar. There's also a lot of gender politics here, like imperialism, gender politics. If we're Indian men, are white women gonna have solidarity with us against a patriarchal imperial order? Or is this just kind of like a mutual fetishization thing that's happening? And the movie does not want to go there.
Not really.
The movie's just kind of like, look, there's the one really evil white lady, and there's the one really nice, pretty white lady, and let's not worry about it. So that's the one part of it where I'm kind of like, what? I don't know. Am I happy that these guys are like wooing all these white women and I'm celebrating, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah,
kind
I
of a
do.
weird, the intersectionality of gender and colonial identities there is strange.
The fact that that Beam gets with Jenny at the end but bummed me out. I was like, come on. It's just because he didn't. They never set him up with another love interest. They didn't want to
Right.
have like one more Indian woman in this movie with a name for him to be like, I like you. They had to bring in this girl who like owned a slave.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's like what's her material connection to the governor? Because they're like hanging out at her house or something, or are they
yeah,
related?
exactly. Are they family? Are they friends? But
And she
like,
helps. She's like, here's the map to the prison, go for your friend. But it's all kind of in the background of this movie. The movie's just like, we're not gonna ever have them have a conversation about this, in part because there's a language barrier, in part because we don't want to. Jenny's cool, guys. She's
she's
cool.
cool.
Don't worry about
The
it.
governor's wife, no cool. She has a spiked whip for some reason.
Just
handy.
on hand, yeah.
On deck, not cool. But Jenny, she's allowed. She's allowed at the cookout. Like, wait, no, why? Don't allow her anywhere. What? I never vibed with it. It's one of the only weird like flat parts of the movie. It feels like drinking a flat soda amongst a beautiful bouquet of soda. This metaphor lost itself halfway through.
And it could have been a cool part of the movie, because like certainly that there's a lot of moments in this movie, especially early on, where a British man will be beating the shit out of an Indian man, and then a woman will be like, please, Roger, oh my, oh, it's so too much, like objecting to the violence of it. But then so you're like, oh yeah, women are cool. Like that shitty guy who beat up uh Beam over the fact that his car wouldn't start, that guy's a dick, but his wife seems cool. But then you go to inside the big mansion and all of the British women are sitting around while Molly sings them a song and like paints henna on their hands.
Correct.
And it's like that's that's just as much a subjugative context. It's violent in its own way, maybe not physically violent, but they have captured a young girl and are forcing her to sing for them and that sort of thing. So there is some critique in this film, but it just doesn't really, it's just not that interested in that part of it, which is, I guess it doesn't have to be, but yeah, I agree. That was the part where I was kind of like, it's a missed opportunity. I would have wanted that to be explored a little bit more.
A little bit, but the movie's already blazing forward towards its next
Yeah.
action scenes, you know?
Yeah.
Top speed. What do we get here? This is a part where Roger gets poisoned with venom. Beam gives him his holy thread around his neck. This has historical and religious significance. They're
Mhm.
like, if you remove this, it'll give you problems. It's almost like it's the end of an act coming up soon.
Mhm.
But him doing this is how Roger realizes who he is. There's your first bit of conflict. He reveals his identity explicitly to Raju in bed. Hey, we're actually gonna go out and rescue Molly tonight. So like, do whatever you want. I don't know who you are. You seem like you could be part of the revolution.
Mhm.
And then action sequence that features probably the most CG, I think, before the ending at least. Just the animals being released from
Mhm.
the trucks. This is fun.
Yep. Awesome.
I think it's really good that they put the note up top, like, we didn't hurt any animals. They're all fake. It's like, thank
Mhm.
you. I didn't. The movie never wants you to really think that these are real animals. It's almost just like, it's the spirit of there being animals here. That is a tiger. You don't need to know how realistic or perfect the tiger's fur looks. You understand
Mhm.
that's a tiger. It is mauling a man to death. Keep it moving. Keep it crispy.
Right. And there's also something kind of funny for me, at least psychologically, where if the movie had not said that all the animals were CG, I would probably be complaining that the animals look a little bit dumb or
Correct.
fake.
Correct.
But the fact that at the top they're like, they're CG animals. Every time a tiger showed up, I was like, fuck yeah, it's a fucking computer tiger.
Yeah.
This thing looks awesome. Yeah, it was flames. The part where he like matrix dodges underneath the leaping tiger,
To hit the
very
other guy
cool.
behind him, super good.
Very cool. Very cool.
The part where he picks up a torch and wields it like a gauntlet and like punches a tiger with it. This is all
Mhm.
this is all beautiful. Swinging a giant metal
Very
chess
cool.
pawn at your friend Raju, who's a pawn of the government.
Damn.
Come on.
Damn, that's awesome. Damn.
I know subtle.
I
know
think
people
this
who
was
use,
my oh, go ahead. What?
I know people. I was trying to quote Garth Marenghi Dark Place. I know people who use subtlety and they're all cowards.
I think this is my favorite action sequence of the film. Just
Yeah.
for what is kind of on the plate
line.
here, because literally Raju, who is recovering from the snake venom thanks to Beam's antidote, comes in to the fight on a blazing chariot. This thing is on fire. I just read in my notes, flaming chariot, flaming chariot, flaming chariot. And then finally Beam allows himself to let his anger loose, so they're really fighting. They have this moment where they kind of have like anime poses in front of backgrounds of the element that's associated with them. There's this whole fire and water motif throughout the movie that
Yep.
is really fun to follow.
Love it.
That they signpost at the beginning with those title cards that are like fire, and now we're gonna show you who Raju is. Water, now we're gonna show you who Beam is. And they have this moment where Raju has like all the fire and a torch, and Beam has like a hose and all this water, and they charge at each other. You're like, oh my god, wow, this is amazing.
I listened to
And then
Scanline's coverage of this movie from 2 years ago, and they compared it to Tokusatsu, like Power Rangers.
Yes,
This is
yep.
very just like shoot me with your element, punch me with elements.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really fun to see how they play with those elements in different scenes in the movie, and how for both of them their character arc is about like discovering the other person's element inside of themselves. Like Beam's whole thing is like finding the fire that's within him, and Raju's whole thing is like kind of reconnecting with like the blood, and the fact that the blood drips down his face and forms a tear, and that's the act break, or that's the intermission. You're like, damn, whoa, these
They're
guys got to
roommates.
figure this out. They're
They
roommates.
better. Yeah, so we get our intermission, which they don't even like signpost as an intermission, I don't think. But it's a pretty like comfortable halfway point of the movie when they both have figured out each other's situation, and then we come back to a pretty long and politically charged flashback about Raju's life, about his father's life specifically. I think obviously we talked about this earlier, the use of Raju's likeness by a lot of like far right folks in India. The use of suicide bombing in this sequence threw me for a loop, and I was like, oh, I understand why narratively that made sense, and I just, as an Arab, I constantly feel weird about the use of suicide bombing in storytelling. And I think that's more my sensitivity than like a fault of the film. How did you feel about this whole flashback sequence?
I mean, I think the movie does a really good job of parceling the flashback portions out, because we get pieces of it out of context early on, to the point where they just show you like Raju as a kid shooting a gun and then some older guy dying, and you're like, oh my god, was he a child soldier for the British Army, like shooting people in a village or something? How deep does this guy's anger and hatred go? And then piece by piece they unravel throughout the film different details. No, actually, was that his father, or was it just like, yeah, it's his father. His father was a soldier for the British, but then witnessed this like really brutal killing, and witnessed Scott give his whole like this bullet speech, which at the time the bullet only cost 3 shillings, 6 shillings, but then inflation, caught up, and the
That's
bullet
one
is
pound
worth a pound
sterling.
sterling, which is a funny touch that he's got his finger on the pulse of how much the bullets cost. And so yeah, you learn, you see this like play out. We keep flashing back to it, that Raju is essentially in this like this standoff with a whole British battalion, him and his dad's injured, and he's the one who has to load the gun, aim and shoot.
Load, aim, shoot,
and
baby.
and it's a pretty upsetting moment, a pretty dramatic moment, and obviously is kind of beyond the realm of like historical accuracy, because this is just a very superhero power of like, well, when I was a kid, I picked up a gun and I was instantly the best sharpshooter ever. His dad having the explosives and him blowing him up part was upsetting, but to me, I don't think it felt politically charged in a way that read to me. That doesn't mean that isn't there. I'm sure there's like critiques that could be made or questions that could be raised about that choice, and I doubt. I mean, I don't know what the real historical figure's origin story is, but I'm guessing that this probably didn't happen to him in real life. But I do think it is a pretty characterful moment to help you understand both like the strength of his convictions, the reason that those convictions come out as like pure raw Terminator style rage all the time, and also this belief that he seems to have that like any sacrifice is worth it.
Yeah.
Because he literally blew up his own father. Like that was a formative memory for him.
To take out like 10 people.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, well, I'm looking at the long game here. I'm looking at the big picture, and it's about how does it all kind of shake out in the end, and do we achieve our goal? So it felt very true to the character. Like, okay, I can understand how this experience would lead to the man that we see in the rest of the film.
Yeah, and it's almost framed as like a big surprise too. You're like
Yeah.
going into the act break, like, oh man, Raju is so unfortunate that he like works for the police. Like, what could have brought him there? It's like, well, actually, it's not even that he was inherently betrayed, but like he was raised a certain way to believe that arming the public would be the step to revolution, and that we
Mhm.
need to do that by going inside and by playing their game with them. And he just
Yep.
got caught up in that game, and that's how he ends up who he is. So it's very easily, or it very effectively takes you from Raju as a complicated anti-hero to like, this guy is going to be all right. This guy has made a face turn without saying it explicitly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's going to be okay in the end.
Yeah, and I think it's part of what the movie's doing here, where like Beam, it's really easy to look at Beam and be like, this guy's a hero.
Correct.
He's
The second you
he's
see
the
him,
yeah, he's like got a very nice face. He when he fights the tiger and the wolf in the forest, he doesn't hit them. Like he
right.
doesn't fight them. He just leads them to a trap and then very tenderly and gently apologizes to the tiger and is like, I needed you for my purposes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, this guy's cool. He's trying to find a little kid. He's great. Um, but like if you want to have a revolution, you got to get your hands dirtier than that, kind of, and get into some really thorny territory of to what extent can you play the colonizer's game? Can you at all? And it's that kind of I think it's the Audre Lorde quote about the
I know what
master's
you're talking about.
tools
Yep.
uh will not
Never
dismantle the
dismantle the
master's
owner's
house.
house. Yeah. There you go.
And that's kind of what's going on with Raju's character, where he's so he has been convinced of what the of what Scott said about the value of bullets and guns. These things are very valuable to have. His father believed that, like, okay, fine, then we are going to get bullets and guns and use them to kill British soldiers. And Raju has inherited that belief.
Right.
And it would be pretty hard to have a violent revolution against the British colonizers without guns. And also, do you like, are they the end all be all of one's ability to resist?
Resist.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily. Um,
As we
so
see in this
it's a
movie, a
really
lot
interesting
of the
conflict.
it is a lot of the best action sequences don't involve guns.
Yeah, and I think that that's very intentional. Like there are a lot of moments where a character could do something with a gun, and then another character's like, "Don't do that with a gun," or they just don't have a gun on hand, or whatever. Um, and I think one of my favorite scenes is the scene where Beam is being physically punished in front of the crowd,
Does not kneel.
um, and does not kneel, and sings the song about himself and like his values. It's so good. That's such a good song. Uh, and there's that moment where, as he's concluding the song, he's like reaching out to the crowd and singing kind of his convictions into them. And then you watch Raju watch as the crowd revolts against the guards
Yeah.
surrounding the stockade. And the very explicitly the camera looks at a moment where like a guy bites a British soldier on the neck, or
Right.
someone stomps on their head, climbing over each other's backs. And Roger realizes like these people did not need guns
Yeah.
to stage that resistance. They just needed to believe that they could and
Yeah.
should do that.
See the power of their numbers.
Yeah. So that's his learning from Beam, is like, I was so fixated on the tools that I kind of lost sight of like the people. And then Beam's learning from him is like, I was so fixated on my tribe, on saving this one girl, that I wasn't thinking about like the system that enabled her to be kidnapped in the first place,
Yeah.
and like how this affects people beyond where I'm from, and like the specific part of the land that I call my home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to see them learn from each other in that way.
Beam is not a sacrificial lamb. He is a volcano, says Raju at one
yeah.
point. Roommates.
And yeah, and that's when Raju learns, as I was saying before, like up to this point, any sacrifice was acceptable, but now he's sort of like, I don't know about that. Like, maybe we don't need to do any sacrificing. Maybe sacrificing people is not worth it if we already have the tools.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Food for thought.
Yeah.
Beam has learned a lot from all of this, though, and after he gets thrown into jail, they are kind of trying to starve him out, and they're like, you know, there's some other stuff. We finish up the flashback. We learn about some other character details. Then we get to him in prison, and Roger is trying to rescue him. And the British say he'll be so starving he'll be gnawing at his chains. And we cut to him instead doing fucking push-ups as the most bonkers mouth sounds.
That's later in the movie.
Is that later? I guess I just jumped ahead too far.
Because Raju arranges for Beam's execution to be moved, the location, so that he can try to save him. And then Scott figures it out partway through driving there.
Yeah.
Shoots the tire.
The power of one gun, by the way. Flips a whole fucking car.
That's a really cool moment where you see him make the choice to use a bullet. And you're like, oh, you really, you don't just throw those things away. And then Raju eventually is able to save Beam.
Yes.
There's a real cool fucking John Woo moment where Raju has the pistol and it looks like he's going to shoot Molly, but he's just waiting for the right moment where Beam is in the air and Molly's on the ground, and he can shoot between them at the British soldier who's in the brush behind them. But then Beam and Molly escape, and Raju gets captured, and he's the one that they're talking about. Oh, we're going to starve him out. He's going to gnaw on his chains. They get to his cell, and he's doing pull-ups in there. And they're like, why are you exercising when you have 2 days to live? And he says, you have every right to work without expecting the results.
Which did you know the trivia about that?
No. What is that?
He's basically quoting Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Like,
oh my God.
Which this is another scene where I was like, fuck Xena Warrior Princess, man. I'm watching.
Yeah, right.
I'm watching RRR. That's what makes it so base.
Quoting something. It did seem like he was quoting.
It's like it's a variant of a line from Krishna. I was like, whoa. You can do whatever you want. Cinema's amazing.
Whoa.
I am obsessed with the guy's dead. He's not gonna make it another day. Cut to him. Pull up. Mm-hmm. It's so fucking badass.
And then the camera looks at the window and you realize that he has a perfect view of the governor's mansion every time he gets to the top of his pull up.
See your target. Never forget your target.
So good.
And Beam finds Raju by tapping out the beat to Natu Natu in the ground, looking around at the different prison cells. I love that nobody catches him this whole time. And then they're like, we have no tools and there's a metal grate holding him in prison. I'm just going to pull really hard, and it'll come right off. And then all the guards were like, whoa, holy shit. Yeah. And this is my favorite action scene. It shouldn't surprise you. Raju's legs don't work too good because he's been in a prison cell for a while, so he hops on Beam's back and they fight off the prison guards like they're playing fucking Marco Polo or Banjo-Kazooie, and it just one guy takes the guns and smacks people, the other guy's kicking dudes and doing flips. Listener, this part's so good.
It's so good. You said Banjo-Kazooie, I said Mario Kart Double Dash, eat your heart out.
Oh, wow.
Because one person's on the guns, one person's driving.
That's actually accurate too. Wowie.
Yeah. That's a great scene. That's fun.
It's just so fun. I don't even know how you choreograph this.
That's how I feel about the whole movie. There's this, a lot.
There are behind the scenes clips or like there's a short doc on Netflix, I think. And there's a lot of stuff about how they did the CG on YouTube, if you're curious.
Oh, cool.
As we go into our final sequence, though, our final battle, Beam prays to a statue of Rama. And the trivia says, as you said, I want to be clear here. Raju is not dressing as Rama. He's dressing as the historical figure Raju, who also happened to kind of look like Rama and wield a bow and arrow, maybe. And so it's kind of like, okay, we're 2 degrees away from dressing as a Hindu god.
Right.
I guess that's all right.
Yeah, and also, by the way, there were a bunch of allusions to him being the Hindu god prior to this point, because Sita is his are they his fiance? They're married. I forget how she refers to him. I think she
They're
says
at
her.
least in love, yeah.
Yeah. Um and in the Ramayana,
Fiance.
I think Sita, or Sita maybe, is the name of Rama's love.
Wow.
And so there's this, because there's these lines where Beam is like, he meets her, he realizes, oh my god, Raju was actually a good guy this whole time, I'm so stupid, I gotta go save him. She fills him in on the whole situation, and he says something like, Sita shouldn't be looking for Rama, like this isn't right. He's basically saying like the myth is backwards right now, because in the myth, like, he looks for her, so I'm gonna go save him for you.
Oh.
So that makes it even more like, but he's not dressed as Rama. We're doing a whole thing where it's like clearly an allegory, but
Every
that's not
single
where it is.
person watching this knows the allegory like the back of their hand, and they're like, okay, like, very cute. And
Yeah, yeah.
this is the concluding point of my Xena comparison, is that Xena Warrior Princess, in its attempt to be, in its India arc, in its attempt to be culturally sensitive and accurate, is like, look, we did it, it's me, I'm the god. And it's like, no, but
Mhm.
there's something weird about you doing it, and you're also saying
Yeah.
it explicitly. It's not subtle, or in this, it's also not subtle, but it's like just enough of a nudge that they're like, we trust you to be smart and know what we're referencing
Mhm.
here, and why these images are powerful and evoke inspiration and awe, especially in the Indian viewing audience. I always love thinking
Mhm.
about this movie from their perspective, because Indian cinema
Mhm.
is so wonderful and huge industry. So yeah, that's all here though. And I mean, Bhima, that's another Hindu god.
Mhm.
Like, it's all everything. They, in the song that you said plays here, is going like Rama, Bhima, Rama. Fantastic. And the violence here gets kicked up to 12. Load, aim, shoot, but this time it's with a bow and arrow with a grenade strapped to the end.
Oh my god, fucking flames. So good.
Literally flames everywhere.
Yep. Yep.
We swing
Again,
a
another
motorcycle.
the fire and water motif,
Yep.
because before the fight starts, Beam is like drinking a cup of water, and then the arrow goes through, and then it's flaming arrows, and he's watching it all happen as he's like standing in a pool of water. It's cool.
Oh,
They're
there's
they're just doing a
more.
lot with that
Yeah, there's more of that
motif.
than I thought. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Some British guy gets speared. So many good kills here. Some guy has his head near an arrow through a tree, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm safe!" And then he pushes his head into the arrow.
Yeah, he
Ah!
jumps off of it so that he can shoot another arrow. Amazing. Amazing.
And then this is where I was like, "All right, now we just got to get rid of Ray Stevenson. This movie's over." They killed his wife. Here we go. He's so angry. We go up to his big palatial estate. Shot through the heart, but he gives. Who gives who the weapon? I think Roger.
Yeah, so this is like one of those great things where a movie's able to pay off all of its recurring lines at the same time.
Cash in every check
Because
simultaneously.
yeah, because Raju immobilizes Scott with an arrow. He's trying to load his gun. In the process, the bullet flies into his hand, very convenient. And then he's like, "Hey, don't you know this was made in a British factory on British ships? This is more valuable than Indian life. You would waste it. Like, let's
Yeah.
return this bullet to him." And then he remembers the promise he made to his dad to like give everybody a gun. And he's like, "Here, my friend, I'm giving you a gun. here, take the bullet." And then he's like, "Oh, and the other thing my dad used to say." And then he does the ready, aim, shoot, and Beam is the one who shoots the governor. So it's this amazing moment where Raju sort of learns how to like inspire other people, and Beam learns how to take responsibility for like a much larger goal, and fight against the systemic thing instead of fight for like a very specific goal.
Right.
So,
This is not just him defeating Governor Scott, but the blood splatter very poetically lands on something that says the sun never sets on the British Empire, which is inspired.
Oh
Subtlety
boy,
is for
that's
cowards.
poetic the way a limerick is poetic. I don't know, like once was a man from Nantucket. Like it is poetic, but it's also like,
Stretches the
yeah,
meaning of what poetic means. Yeah.
yeah. It's very in your face in a really fun way.
As the whole movie kind of is.
Yeah,
Then we get this, cute little end sequence. Oh my god, everybody gets their girl. And then we get the dance number over the credits, which,
Yep.
oh yeah, my favorite, maybe
So
my
good.
favorite trend from from Indian cinema.
Yep.
Did you say that the director is in this?
Yeah. So I had looked up a picture of SS Rajamouli just in looking up the movie. And then when the dance is happening at one point, there's just like a middle-aged guy who shows up who had not been in the movie up to that point. And that is him joining in on the dance number at the end. And he
Okay.
poses with the cast at the very end of the song.
Aww.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cute.
great.
Who needs a
It's
fourth
great.
wall? Who needs subtlety? Who needs a fourth wall? These things are overrated.
Yeah, they smash the fourth wall in this final dance number. It's super fun. I was thinking as I was watching this, like, man, American movies need to do this more where we just have like a song. Why don't we do this? And you know what?
What?
There was an American movie that was like this
Oh,
within the
no.
past couple of years.
Oh no.
Barbie.
Oh, you're so right.
Like
You're right.
Barbie's just kind of like, now it's time for a musical dance number. And they did it.
You're absolutely right. I forgot
You
about
wouldn't
that.
call Barbie a musical.
No, because I was gonna
But
say you're
they
thinking about a
have-
musical. I'm gonna say Wicked. That's a musical.
No. Barbie.
Yeah. His
And
name was
people loved that. We should make more movies like Barbie.
Uh-huh.
And all the Barbie girlies and fellas and non-binary people who liked Barbie should watch RRR,
Yep.
and vice versa, because they're essentially the same film.
What in this essay I will, and then the
Uh-huh.
the video ends. Any stray notes on RRR?
I got a couple moments that I loved. Let me skip my notes here.
Oh my god.
I love that the movie opens on we're singing to the governess and putting henna on her hand. And I was already like, wow, this is a much more interesting and layered thing than the Xena episodes. Instead of this being like magical ink. It's like, this is just a thing that we do that looks cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The shot of when they drop the money to buy, in air quotes, Molly, and you just see these like metal discs hitting the ground. It's just like they don't even look like coins or just nothing. I love the way that the movie makes them look like totally meaningless objects, because how could they possibly purchase somebody's life?
How can pieces of metal be worth a human life? And also, like, what does their money even mean to the people watching this? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
A pound? What is a pound?
And they don't hand it to them. It's like we just drop it on the ground and I thought that was a very telling way to do that. I thought the mom died at the beginning, but she wasn't dead, which was nice. Good little happy ending. She's dead. Not dead. Sorry.
Dead.
My brain left my body for a second there. I want a big cat as a pet. If I could have a domesticated tiger, like, and be 100% confident it wouldn't eat me, it wouldn't like do a big chomp. It would just be like a nice cat and would purr and say hello to me. I would for certain have a big cat, or like a medium cat, like a lynx or something.
Yeah, I mean, big cat, you have the potential of being able to ride it, but medium cat, it's just like I got a sizable cat here.
Oh my god. If I could put a saddle on a freaking tiger and ride it,
it'd be over. It would be over.
It would be over.
Going to the office.
Be so yeah. Just commute on the tiger, bring it up the elevator, tie it up at the end of the cubicles.
No, let him walk around. He can do TPS reports.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah, you're right. I like that there's this interesting thing where like Beam is he is the guy who's the protector of the village. He starts in this place that's very connected to nature, but then throughout the film, he's the one who's riding a motorcycle, and he's the one who's in love with like the British white lady. And then Raju starts and he's got the mustache, he's got the hair gel, and he's got the modern military police uniform. By the end of the movie, he's in the robes and he's back with his love from the village. It's just interesting, like the kind of aesthetics of that and the way that the two of them cross over each other. It's also just fun seeing him like ride a horse next to Beam riding a motorcycle, and they
Yeah,
like
yeah.
stay at the same pace. That's pretty delightful.
I love those. Again, how did they make this?
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Raju's plan to help Beam flirt with Jenny is he just puts like caltrops in the road so that her car
Super
tires
normal.
flop.
I found some nails down the road and I just threw them, and she's gonna stop right here. It
Yeah,
worked.
which is a little moment of characterization where it's like, whatever. My goal was to get her car to stop so that you could talk to her, and that was the most efficient way to do it. It doesn't matter if we got to break a couple cars along the way. Themes. I love the part where he slaps the Murray's hair gel into Beam's hair.
Yep.
Just a big glob of Murray's.
Yummy.
Blanc.
What's
Very
the noise?
yummy. Blanc.
Thanks.
In the Natu Natu dance, there's no continuity for like where they are in the party,
Both teleporting.
because it's like they're everywhere. They're constantly teleporting to different parts of it, singing in our face or singing to other people. That's just fun that they can like not follow the rules there for a minute. At one point, Beam says, "Mother, don't these white women bear children? Like, don't they understand that what they're doing is super fucked up?"
Yeah. We see a child get shot in this movie. We didn't talk about that.
Yes.
In the flashback.
Yes.
I think that scene was controversial. I believe it.
I believe it.
I don't want to say that was less emotionally complicated for me as the suicide bombing, but them being like kind of close to back, I was like, everything in the flashback sucks, dude. Oh my god. It's all just like extreme violence to explain how characters got to where they are. But yeah, they did show a child being killed.
There's something about like this movie is hyper violent in the way that like a Tarantino movie is, where it kind of goes beyond shocking to the point of like you're numb to it. But I still think that its hyper violence falls short of the violence of imperialism.
Of course. No question.
And that is a really troubling thing to think about, that like as much as exaggerated as this is, it's not exaggerated. The like scene where Raju whips Beam until he's bloody and like collapsing, that is a thing that happened, that people did to other people. Yeah. Let's see. My favorite visual from that scene, by the way, when Beam's singing his song about himself, there's a moment where the camera goes underneath the platform and there's this groove in the sand where his blood falls and then flows in the groove. And the song is like about how it's flowing like a river. So it's kind of this like the water motif happening again, even though he's bleeding. There's this kind of like natural power and beauty that's coming out of that. But then also it makes you think about, if this divot was already there in the sand, many people have been like made to bleed on this platform and formed that divot before him.
Right. It carries with it the echo of a lot of history.
Yeah. Also, before he sings a song, he's softly caressed by a big leaf. It's like a big CG leaf that kind of slaps him in the face and then brushes off.
And he's like,
away.
Nature is here for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the inciting incident of the song, which is pretty fun. And I think that's it. I think those are all my notes.
Amazing.
Oh, and then my favorite part of the final dance numbers, Sita just has like really great head wobbles when she pops in and
The Indian
dances.
movements. That's a thing. That's a
Yeah.
cultural thing, you know.
Right.
Sita's great. Yeah, that's RRR, folks. It was a delightful film, thought provoking, but also just entertaining. Some good action, some fun acting. It's great to watch a foreign film. It's refreshing. It reminds me of the power of cinema. And this movie is also based as hell, top to bottom, and you'll have a great time watching it, I think. I like to imagine that kid that in 2022 like snuck out to watch this film way too young and was influenced by it and grows up and he's like, I want to start a revolution. I hope you're doing all right there.
Hope so.
Yeah. Make it happen. Anyways, not to get political on the RRR episode. But John, what are we doing next time on Chatz Television Podcast?
We are. Do we want to do what we usually do? Because we talked about this. Some people are beefing with Paramount Plus and CBS as a corporation. So we are not recommending that you use their streaming service to watch along with us. Find some other way to watch Star Trek. But I think we're gonna move forward with the next Trek Chats episode.
I think that's okay. Yeah, but again, with that explicit knowledge, because I think it's a balance of our entire listener base wants us to do this. They love Trek Chats almost as much as, if not more than, other things we do, and we don't want to encourage you to watch it on a platform that is being encouraged to be boycotted by the BDSS movement and also just general American, a lot of the general American public.
Yeah, it's not
explicit on the BDSS.
No. Maybe it is, but I think we found that it wasn't like the highest priority boycott target or something like that. So, but it's something to be aware of that Paramount Plus and CBS have like suppressed or adjusted certain coverage of what's going on in Gaza and
also the Holocaust.
And the Holocaust.
Yeah, go watch the rehearsal, season 2, episode 2.
The rehearsal episode about it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So find some other way to watch Deep Space Nine. Might I recommend your local library? Might have it on DVD. You could try that.
I find a copy of it falling off the back of a turnip truck, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps a turnip truck. But we are going to be watching Deep Space Nine Season 5, the second half, from episodes 14 to 26, which is In Purgatory's Shadow through to Call to Arms. So we're going to finish Season 5 of Deep Space Nine.
Meowth, that's right.
Meowth, that's right.
Excited for Destined Rivals to come out next weekend, Magellan? The Team Rocket themed set?
Oh, Teamy Rock. Can I get James's Victory Bell?
I don't think that is a card.
I'm not interested then.
All right, fair enough.
Wow. The sentence that just came into my mind was, if I can't get sucked off by James's Victory Bell, ...
Is this becoming a trend, especially at the end of Chatz episodes where your intrusive thoughts get louder and louder? I kind of like it.
Yeah. That was too quick of a thought to leave unsaid, you know?
Yeah, I do. This is a week where you do the plug zone. But first, I want to ask you, before you do the plug zone, hold.
I'm holding. Okay.
He's holding. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me online on another podcast that I do with my friend Justin called Super Smash Echoes, where we play video games related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise. Super Smash Echoes. Check it out. I'm also on Bluesky, notthatmagellan.bsky.social, and I have some writing that's sitting right now on Substack at notthatmagellan.substack.com. What about you?
You can hear me on a few other podcasts, primarily The Creature Corner, which is a Pokemon podcast I host with my friend Six on Scanline Media. And I'm also on The Garnet Wager, which just put out a new episode. It is a Korean game show, TV discussion podcast that I do with Six and our friend Nick. And we also do some great storytelling. We are on the penultimate episode of our season that just came out. So now we're winding up for the grand finale. And you can find me on social media at Ibrahim on Bluesky. I haven't been posting there much or checking it. because every time I hear about it, it's like, wow, this is slowly not turning to Twitter. That's mean. It's not turning into Twitter. There's just so much discourse. I can't be online. Every time I want to be online, I hear about discourse and I get sweepy, and then I get a burger instead. It's like, I feel like
I just tuned in for a couple Pope jokes the other day and then tuned out.
Pokes.
Pope jokes.
The Pope jokes. Michelle, okay, where can people find Chats?
You can get in touch with our show in a few ways. Let me tell you what those ways are. You can email us at chatzpod.gmail.com with any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, requests. If you want to be on the show, if you have some opinions about RRR that you want to share with us, or some thoughts about the upcoming Star Trek episodes, if you want to tell us how you're feeling about whether we should talk about Star Trek more or less or whatever, all that stuff, you could email it to us at chatzpod@gmail.com, chatzpod@gmail.com. We're also on Bluesky as a show, chatzpod.bsky.social, so you can get in touch with us there. We are on YouTube, Chat's a Television Podcast, where you can find video to go along with the audio if you're an audio-only listener.
I'm doing the Wordle.
Our little faces. Alan's doing the Wordle right now. That's pretty good. Let me pop that open. I'll do the Wordle in a minute here as well. Just gotta see what it is. Okay. We are on everywhere that you can get podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. If you want to support us, rate us, review us, share us, all of those good things. Or if you have the funds, you can support us financially at patreon.com/chatzpod. Again, CHATZPOD. $1 a month gets you on the Discord. $3 a month gets you twice monthly bonus episodes. In the month of April, we released a bonus episode on the pilot of Mad Men and a bonus episode on the first 3 episodes of Space Brothers. And then now in the month of May, we should actually pull from the cup.
Let's do it.
See what our listener bonus episode is.
Pull the cup. Pull the
listener selected topic for one of our 2 bonus episodes in the month of May.
I was just looking at the list, and there's so much heat in there.
There's a lot of heat. This one comes from Stefan. It is the pilot of Yellowstone.
Ooh, bad TV.
Hey, wasn't that like canceled? People are upset that it was canceled, and now they got old people doing a different show.
I have no idea.
Old people is Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. I don't know if that's related to Yellowstone or just a different show.
What? Okay, let's look into it. Kevin Costner is John Dutton. It's a neo-Western drama television series that is not on a streaming. Don't worry about it. Don't look up what its streaming service it's on. Don't watch it, guys. We'll watch it
somewhere that we shouldn't be using.
It's on Paramount. It's a Paramount exclusive.
Oh my gosh. Oh, should we pull something else for now?
No. We gave him the pick. It's Patreon. They asked for it before.
All right, you're right. It's Patreon. You're right.
Give him the pick. And we might just clown on it and tell people not to watch it.
Fair. Okay. That's our bonus episode. Our second bonus episode is the Yellowstone pilot. And now it's time. Oh, and $5 a month gets you thanked at the end of every episode. Thank you to domestic partner of the podcast, Amanda, Arthur, Emily, Emrys, Felicia, Jen, Justin, Kyrie, Lee, Marcus, May Louise, my mom, Nick of the Brothers at Infinite War, Noel, Six, and Stefan. Thank you, folks, for supporting the show. Now it's time for Chatzums, a little thing for us to snack on between now and next time. Alan, what is your Chatsum for this week? What's your little recommendation?
I say as I try to asphyxiate myself with my cup of water. I'm just being silly here, guys. My anti-Chatsum is casinos. I went to a casino for the first time recently, and I don't think you should go to a casino. I mean, listen. No, I'm not even gonna. No, I don't even want to get into it. I went for like an hour. I had a bad time. I was like, I don't want to go here again. I'm all set. Swaggy. My Chatsums are a re-Chatsum and a new Chatsum. That's actually it's an old thing. I'm re-Chatsuming the Peacock original series Poker Face, which is back for season 2 as of May 9th of this year. The show came out back in 2023 and stars Natasha Lyonne as a young woman who just Charlie Kale, a woman who knows when people are lying. You can hear it in their voice and the tenor of their speaking. Poker Face is super charming. It's like kind of show run by Ryan Johnson, so it has that Knives Out feeling of everyone's wacky and the rich people are evil, but it's also Columbo. It's very, very, very Columbo. Like Leon's kind of doing a Peter Falk impression at times, but it's modern day and it features a ton of good celebrity guest acting, and it has a through line serialized story of her trying to escape law enforcement. But also each episode is a little vignette into America. She finds her place somewhere, someone does some evil lying, and then she figures it out, solves crimes. I think this show is super refreshing in the modern TV environment. So I re-chat some Poker Face for y'all.
Great.
And I'm chatsing a video game that Magellan and our friend Jim have been telling me is superior to anything else for many, many years. And I'm finally here to say that Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver gets my regretful chatsum for being maybe one of the best Pokemon games ever made. And maybe I should have given it a fair shake when I played it back in like 2012. Okay, it's really well made. It's really well paced. The music's incredible. It's a remake of one of the best generations of Pokemon. It's well balanced. It has good quality of life changes that keep the game engaging and fun, and it's also just charming and nostalgic. Okay, how do you feel?
I feel vindicated. Extremely good game.
Sometimes you just gotta wait me out. You know, I genuinely think I played Soul Silver and like either didn't click with it or didn't play a lot of it, because every step of the way I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Whoa, oh my god, Goldenrod City looks so cool here. I just got to.
It was a weird time. That was like, wasn't that like senior year of high school or something?
Yeah,
something like that.
It's a borrowed copy, and sometimes when I borrow a game from someone, I don't feel the like enjoyment / ownership of it as much. It's whatever, but it's good. It is good. I'm here to tell you that as a Pokemon maniac. What about you, Majan? What are your chatsums?
I've been noodling around with making custom magic cards just for fun. I don't know if I've chatsum this yet, but there's this thing called Magic Set Editor, which is a great little Windows application that has the interface and the newness of a sort of like an MS Paint, but is actually very well resourced and set up to making your own custom magic cards super easy. So I'd recommend Magic Set Editor and just kind of futzing around with that. And then in the process, I was trying to find, what's some like art that I could use, because I don't want to AI generate, a bunch of art.
Yeah.
AI.
Fuck that.
And in the process, I came across a subreddit called r/imaginary network, which is kind of like a hub that combines a ton of different imaginary blank subreddits. They're all places that have curated artwork about a specific thing. So like Imaginary Archers is all like, here's a cool piece of art I found of an archer and here's the source of it, that kind of thing. So, but if you go to the Imaginary Network, it's almost like a wiki page linking you to all these different art subreddits. So I'd recommend that just to check it out and be like, whoa, cool. Imaginary starships. Yeah. Bet these look awesome. Shit, these look awesome.
I'm learning a lot today.
Yeah.
Is that what you got, baby girl?
That's what I got.
Brilliant. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Magellan, for being the Raju to my beam, because, if I wrap myself in an Indian flag and hold your hand real tight, then I might just be safe from all the bad guys. Keep on keeping on. Thanks for listening. This has been MovieChatz, and we'll see you at the movies.
Peace. Alrighty.